Hey, Larken Rose here. As I'm sure a number of you have heard by now, a self-described anarcho-capitalist was just elected to be the next president of Argentina, which I find amusing and weird. It makes me optimistic, and for completely different reasons than I think it makes a lot of people optimistic. Now, I know almost nothing about him. I've already seen him say things that don't sound anarcho-capitalist to me, like, we're only going to be buddies with the U.S. and Israel. Neither of those is remotely close to supporting freedom in any way, shape, or form, so that's not entirely encouraging. But this video isn't even about him. It's about the phenomenon. Now, it's sort of funny because he dares to be just really rude and insulting, especially towards the political left, which has just destroyed Argentina. Inflation rates through the roof and poverty everywhere. It's a catastrophe. Gee whiz, it's almost like communist and left-leaning garbage always does that. Who'd have thought? But what's amusing to me and what makes me optimistic is that he won, like, pretty handily, bashing the hell out of the system. Now, in the case of Trump, he won by pretending to be against the system and not really bashing anything. The fact that somebody who openly said, I want to, like, tear down all these departments and massively slash this and that and the other thing and fire all these people, and openly talks about, like, I don't nearly trust, communists, and I don't trust them, and they're the enemy, the state is the enemy of the people. He's been saying things like that. And then saying other things which make me not so sure that he actually means what he says. I don't care if he means what he says, because in the long run, it doesn't stinking matter. Now, if he goes in and slashes this and slashes that, that would be fun to watch. Now, I have no idea the legal structure of Argentina. I know that up here, a president can't just magically pass laws unilaterally. So I don't know what the president is able to do now. Now, as the chief executive, presidents can fire a bunch of people, and he's basically saying, I'm going to fire a bunch of people. Okay, get to it, whatever. If anybody's wondering what I have voted for, no. For the reasons I've explained 800,000 billion times. I'm not going to say, yeah, that guy should wield power over everyone. No, he shouldn't. Neither should anybody else. What's encouraging is that so many people resonated with his message. And that's what matters, is the mentality of the people. And I'll once again mention the cool thing that happened when Ron Paul gave his final comments on the House floor. It was like the last thing he said in front of Congress. And he basically said about himself what I had said about him for years, which is, I think it's awesome that he's spreading those ideas and starting a lot of people on their path. Even though by himself, he isn't getting a whole lot of people all the way to voluntarism, but he's giving them a good kick in the pants that ended in a lot of people getting there. But legislatively, he didn't do anything. Like, the fact that he held office, what did that accomplish? He was Dr. No. He voted against 80 bajillion things that were unconstitutional, which, okay, good for him. Vast majority of them passed anyway. Didn't make any stinking difference. And he basically said, legislatively, I didn't accomplish anything. I'm paraphrasing. You can go look up his comments. But he said what matters is what the people believe in. If they believe in freedom, like, there isn't a political solution to this. What matters is the people believing freedom enough that they make it happen. And I forget the exact wording he used. And that's just as true in Argentina or anywhere else in the world as it is here. The fact that so many people were ready to put on the throne somebody saying those things is both encouraging and discouraging. Because if they would just realize, why do we care who's on the throne? If that many of us just don't like this, why don't we just disobey? We massively outnumber our victimizers. But so many people are stuck inside the political mindset, which is one reason I don't at all endorse the political process, is because it's a trap, that they think, no, we have to get one of our own on the throne, instead of just saying, well, if we don't think we should be obeying these crooks at all, why do we have to play their stupid game? And by the way, I think the Jones Plantation does a marvelous job of showing what happens when you can trick the victims of authoritarianism into thinking they have to play your game. So, yeah, if you haven't seen that, go watch Jones Plantation. JonesPlantationFilm.com. But regardless of what he does or doesn't do, I don't know what he can legally do unilaterally. I don't know how long it's going to be before somebody just shoots him. I could very easily see the U.S. Having to render assistance down in Argentina for some reason and knocking him, or just the CIA knocking him off. And I'm not, I hope that doesn't happen. I don't know anything about him. I'd like to assume he means well, even though, trying to get on the throne is not the way to fix anything. But he may very well mean what he says and mean well. I don't know. I know nothing about him, and this video isn't supposed to be about him. But the fact that he could say those things and so many people are on board, by a lot, and he was kind of a nobody. This isn't there were two main parties. It's just kind of out of the blue. Here's this radical babbling and on about these extreme views, and of course condemned by the establishment in all directions. And the fact that people resonated with that is a really good sign. Now, if he gets in and tries to do something but gets overruled or some court throws it out, like I said, I don't know how their legal system works at all, but I guarantee there are going to be ways that they're going to find to decide that whatever he tried to do doesn't count. You can't just by executive order do this, that. You need an act of Congress or whatever it is they have down there. Or before, there have been referendums in the U.S. where the people voted, we don't like this tax or whatever. And courts threw out the people using the referendum process to limit authoritarianism, and courts have just decided, no, you get it anyway, even though you did exactly what our rules say you're supposed to do a referendum to have the people decide something. But we just decided that there, authoritarianism happens anyway. Whether or not this guy is able, I don't even remember his name. I would pronounce it wrong if I tried. I would butcher it. So that guy, look him up. New president of Argentina, if you care. I don't actually care about the guy. But if he tries stuff and tries to pass it, and they have to just openly go, nope, you're not allowed to do that, I'm more hopeful about that than about him actually fixing things legislatively, because that doesn't ever actually work. Whether they just kill him or find ways to overrule him or whatever. But if people say, hey, we elected that guy president and he wanted us to be taxed less and less control, and he's going after the central bank there, which, wow, if you want to get killed, get into a high office and go after the central banks. So that's unfortunate. But if they use the process and realize, wow, that didn't work either, that may do a whole lot more to help them realize, well, why are we asking any of them for permission? Why are we trying to put anybody on the throne? Why don't we just stop going along with it? Stop using their currency, stop paying their taxes, stop obeying their laws. Now, there is a huge risk of doing that unless a huge number of people do it all at once. Well, a huge number of people in Argentina just voted for a self-described anarcho-capitalist as president. Just still really funny to say. Even though I don't think that by itself is going to fix anything. So how many of them have to realize, wow, the fact that he won means that there are huge numbers of people down here tired of the collectivist bullshit. Why do we even care about their game? Why are we even paying attention to it? Why don't we claim freedom for ourselves and just act like we have the right to be free without their permission? And so it will be interesting to see what happens. Like I said, I know almost nothing about this guy. I'm already scared on his behalf, because if you have any leverage and you go against the central bankers, that doesn't go well. But the fact that those ideas are out there, I've only said this 8 million times. This becoming part of the discussion is the thing that matters. The mentality of the people is all that matters. It is the defining characteristic of what determines the future, is what do the people believe in. And so if a bunch of people elected this guy and he promises to do all this stuff, even if he goes, never mind, I was corrupt, I'm not doing any of it, that doesn't change the fact that they believe those ideas, they like those ideas, they wanted that level of freedom because they're sick. They've seen firsthand just how lovely collectivism works. and they don't want it, and they actually liked the message. So whether he gets shot or does something and gets overruled, or even like manages to do some damage to that particular ruling class by like firing a bunch of people, and like if he can get away with that, what matters is still the mentality of the people. And so the thing is, if down the road, oh, now we're going to vote in some new collectivist who promises us free goodies, if that happens but the mentality of the people stay the same, it doesn't matter, because then the people just go, yeah, no, we're not paying for your stupid collectivist socialist BS. We're going to keep being free. And so to me, this is like the electing of that guy is a symptom of the good news. It isn't the good news in and of itself. The good news is that a huge number of people are starting to lean towards, how about not having a ruling class that messes with currency and taxation and warmongering and everything else you can possibly imagine? How about actual freedom? And so him getting elected is a symptom of a whole lot of people resonating with that message. And so my focus is never going to be, we just got to vote for this guy now, including me. If anybody ever suggests I run for office, no, you missed the entire stinking point. When enough people understand it that they could make a difference by way of voting, they could make a difference by way of disobeying way faster, way more effectively, way more thoroughly. Imagine if whatever percentage of Argentinians just, Argentinians? I don't know. Just voted for this guy. Imagine if instead of doing that, they all just looked at each other and went, let's just stop paying tribute to these crooks. We'll use our own currency, whether it's crypto or silver and gold or whatever. We're not going to pay tribute to them. We're not going to pay their taxes. We're going to suddenly create a huge under-the-table black market, which is going to become the entire market, kind of like what happened in the Soviet Union, where the black market in the Soviet Union became the entire market because communism killed everything else. And just start acting like you have the right to be free instead of trying to play a game to get the permission of somebody else to be free. So I'm happy about it. I think it's good news. I'm kind of scared on behalf of that guy because like they don't respond well to actual threats to their power. Now, if he's totally corrupt and putting on a show, okay, that still won't change people's attitudes. It won't make them like collectivism and authoritarianism. It'll just make them depressed and pissed off, and then maybe he'll have a revolution or something. But again, the mentality of the people is the thing that matters, and I think it's a very good sign that many people down there did that. Now the question is, what will it take to have a significant percentage of people in the U.S. support somebody actually pro-freedom? No, not Trump. He's not pro-freedom in any way, shape, or form. Not even a little bit. And voting for, well, we need less taxation and less this, and there was a bunch of that in the sort of the rhetoric of the guy who was to be the next president of Argentina, if he lives that long, of like, we need to reduce this, we're going to cut the cabinet from 18 down to 8 or whatever it was. It was like, what, down to 8, not down to 0? Like an actual anarchist would say there shouldn't be a ruling class. That's kind of what it means to be an anarchist. So, but I don't want to bash him too much because I'm sure there's, the media is going to spin him all over the place, regardless of what he actually believes and what he actually says. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know that much about him. But I think it's a really good sign. And it's funny because I've said a million times, most people are going to have to learn by example. And so it's going to be, it would be sort of funny, but also a little bit pathetic if freaking Argentina ends up being the example that a lot of people can look to and go, oh yeah, they just decided to not bow to a ruling class and they seem to be doing way better, which they will be. Right now their inflation's through the roof and poverty's through the roof, and it's just a catastrophic mayhem. And I still think that ultimately the U.S. has a way better chance than anywhere else of being able to start showing larger areas of that people can learn by example. Like a state that just says, yeah, we're not a state anymore. We're not paying tribute to the governor. Screw you. We don't care. And we're not paying tribute to the feds. And then, the feds would get desperate and, whatever would happen would happen. But it's kind of hysterical that a country that big just elected someone who, at least on occasion, describes himself as an anarchist. So guess we'll see what we see. But to those like pinning their hopes on his legislative or political agenda, don't, because that isn't at all what matters in the long run. I mean, let's say I, for some reason, lost my marbles and wanted to be in office, and I got elected to president by tricking everybody or something. If the mentality of the people is still collectivist and authoritarian, wouldn't matter in the slightest. Because the people would just, even if I could try to do damage, they would just elect another monstrosity. What matters is what the people want. And so don't bother pinning your hopes on the outcome of this particular event. But do, by all means, take it as a very good sign that somebody saying those things got mass support from a huge number of people, enough that, like, we want the guy on the throne who says there shouldn't be a throne. So that's a very good sign to me. Now, what will be the outcome of that? I don't stinking know. Like, there's going to be control freaks trying very hard to not have that happen, whether they bribe him, kill him, or, try their legalese tricks. But it'll be fun to see what happens. But whatever happens, the thing to keep an eye on and the place to keep pushing, it's not the ballot booth, it's not the whining for legislation, it's the mentality of the people. And if all the people down in Argentina are the first to go, we don't want a ruling class at all, cool, I don't care where it happens. It needs to be the whole stinking world sooner or later. And I think it's an awesome thing to start to see examples that big of huge numbers of people recognizing not just we want a different flavor of government, but government is all the way the enemy. Now, how many understand that all the way? I don't know. What'll be the outcome of this? I don't know. But it's fun to see even this much happening. And now we'll just see what happens from here. But most importantly, keep an eye on what the people believe, because the belief in authoritarianism has been crumbling for decades. And I know a lot of people, including a lot of voluntarists, might think, what are you talking about? People are so authoritarian. Didn't you see what that did for the last few years? And I need to finish my other video about that, about basically the evolution of the concept of individual rights. Because we are nearing the end of statism. And it's fun to see, even though I'm sure plenty of ugliness is going to happen on the way out, because psychopaths don't usually give up their power willingly or peacefully. But the shift in mentality, it's kind of hard to miss at this point in a lot of people, even when most people are still clueless statists. But that doesn't matter. I've said it a million times. The majority never determines what the future is going to be and where society is going to go. It's always a little minority of troublemakers saying this isn't okay and we're going to change it. And that's true whether they're changing in the right direction or the wrong direction. But that's how society changes. So, congratulations to the guy who won, but not really, because you're still just a guy. You don't have any more rights than you did before you won. I don't even know when he's supposed to take office or any of that, or I know nothing about their system. But just as a symptom of the changing mentality of humanity, I think it's a good thing, and it's fun to watch. So hopefully it won't get too heinously ugly as the control freaks panic about it, which they no doubt will. But in the long run, that doesn't matter. When the tyrants get too drastic, often it just pushes people more in the direction of, well, then we don't want you in power at all. We think you're psychos. And I think a lot of that's happening in the U.S. Apparently it's happening down in Argentina. Maybe happening in a bunch of other places. I'm not keeping up on all the political campaigns of stuff around the world. But it is fun to get a glimpse into what the mentality of people around the world, where their belief systems are headed. Because I know a whole lot of voluntarists in Germany and obviously in the U.S. There's some in Canada, amazingly, despite the catastrophe there. And in UK, all over the place. And they may be a quiet minority, but they're still pushing it, and that is the thing that matters, is spreading the idea so that people want freedom, because most people don't even know what it is, and they don't think they want it because they've been trained to believe that authority is safer. But a lot of people are learning the hard way that no, it isn't. So anyway, that's enough babbling about that. So we'll see what happens in Argentina. It'll definitely be interesting.